Conversations with Nicole. Conversations with Nicole. Let's talk about it. Tell me all about it. I'm here. I wanna know what's on your mind. Ooh, the world needs to hear from you, and I'm so glad to have a conversation to reach the nation. And it's all about you. We'll help each other to discover innovative ways to positively change the world. Let's talk about, let's talk about, yeah. Let's talk about conversations with Nicole.
Greetings, welcome to Conversations with Nicole. I am Nicole Everett, your host, and today my very special guest is Kathleen Spehar, the Executive Director of COCA, the Council on Cultural Arts. Thank you for being here with me.
Oh, thank you so much for the invitation, Nicole.
Indeed. So, from Cali, right? I mean, you came here from California, correct?
I came here actually from the Midwest.
Okay.
So Chicago, Detroit, Minneapolis, St. Paul. That's kind of a little triangle. I have been in California before, but that was just for a brief period of time.
Okay.
I've been in Japan and all those other places, but I kept landing back in the Midwest, or I was here in Florida.
Gotcha.
In 2010, 2011, I was at Florida State.
Okay, wonderful. And so you've been in Tallahassee for about 4.5 years-ish.
Yes.
And came for the job, correct?
Exactly. So I've been in the industry that's arts, culture, and heritage for my whole entire life.
Nice.
So I'm a musician, I've been an educator, I've taught K-12 school, I've been a promoter and a producer, and kind of, you kind of check the boxes on all of those different professions, but I've never worked for an agency.
Okay.
I've worked with agencies, but not for them. And when this opportunity came forward, I had already been, gotten to know COCA during that 2010, 2011 tenure here at Florida State. So I said, I would love to go in and do some agency work in Tallahassee, in the South, and lo and behold, they hired me. I came down.
Wonderful. And what's the experience been like for you from that time to this?
Oh, it's been an incredible learning experience. Agency work is very different than any other kind of arts and culture work that you do, because you're doing programming, but you're working directly with government on all levels, so local, state, and federal. And that's one of the sensibilities I've been able to bring to this position, is different connections that I've just kind of collected along the way.
Nice.
And really strengthen some of those relationships kind of in that ladder. We also do very deep community work, which I really love, and do regional. So there's so many different components to this position.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed and appreciated that.
Nice. And so what are some of the things that COCA advocates for?
So that's our mission, is that we advocate for arts, culture, and heritage in the capital city region.
Okay.
We're kind of your one-stop shop for it all. And then the region for us includes Tallahassee and Leon County, but then the 100 miles surrounding radius. So, 9 counties in Florida and counties in western Alabama and southern Georgia. So COCA has a whole plethora of services. We have an art and public places and public art program. We've got a very vibrant arts education program. We are funders, so we redistribute funding from the city and the county that we get through the tourism development tax.
Yes.
We also fundraise for the agency. So recently we were able to obtain some National Endowment for the Arts.
Awesome.
Funding, I know,
Congratulations.
fancy.
Yes.
Federal funding that we were able to redistribute into the community too. We have a vibrant marketing and communications plan. We do weekly newsletters of all different shapes and sizes. We write articles for the Democrat. You name it, we do it, or we're tangentially associated with it.
Indeed. And so what is art in your opinion?
What is art?
Yes.
So I believe that art is a human right. And so I will start there.
Okay.
Arts and culture is a basic human right. Okay. Food, shelter, clothing, art. It's all in there. It is all in there. When you look at through the years, what is saved, and how do we know ourselves as citizens and as a civilization? We know this, who we are and our history through arts and culture.
Yeah.
And so that's why I believe it's a basic human right. I believe that people are innately curious and creative, and arts and culture helps really tap into that. I believe that it is a place where you can discover who you are and what you think and what you feel and be able to express it. So it's all of those things. There's different levels of art too. There's community art, and there's professional, and there's so on and so forth. But it really all does blend in together for me in that whole what is art. It is an important part of what your life should include.
Well, I love that. I can see a shirt right now. Art is a human right.
That sounds great. We have a 40th anniversary of COCA next year, so maybe we need to actually produce that. If I may just borrow that idea.
You can have that one for free.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. That's really kind of you.
You're welcome. So there are many aspects to art as well. I think of visual arts, performing arts, but there are other arts components as well. Can you talk a little bit about what some of those other components are?
Yeah, and then so performing arts is usually music, theater, and dance. Then there's also literary arts. I mean, we have a really active community of writers here, and poets especially, which is really fantastic. There's also film is usually part of it. And then there's kind of the tangential ways that other professions kind of intersect with arts and culture very intimately. So like food has become, kind of food art
culinary
has become,
art,
exactly,
yes.
and culinary arts has really taken off. So those types of ways to incorporate art into other professions are some things that we've been able to capitalize on in this community, and especially through partnerships.
Nice. Now, has COCA sought to get the youth involved with arts or engage with youth as it relates to arts?
We have an active arts education program working directly with Leon County Schools, and then with art programs that are through either nonprofit organizations like Lemoyne Arts, or through or at the senior level, like the senior citizens, in the senior center. So we kind of for the whole like 8 to 80, or from youth to all the way up, to young at heart. We engage, and usually we're promoting the different programming. We're encouraging like summer camp registration or attendance at some of their different programs and workshops. We also write articles on artists at different levels of their career. So we write articles about youth art, because March is a youth art month, so we did a fair amount of articles about that. And then we have artists that are also more the young at heart, and so we age, and so we write about those artists too. So we really engage in arts education. We have an arts education grant program that we offer teachers in Leon County schools, and we've been able to give out over 50 scholarships and grants over the last 3 or 4 years to those like specific projects that involve the schools, but this is something that you wouldn't be able to do in your regular classroom. So we've engaged just thousands of students in arts and culture. We also produce something called Chalk Walk and Winterfest. So Chalk Walk are exactly what you're thinking. It's chalk art that we make part of our arts advocacy initiatives down, and did you see that?
I have seen it. Now that you mentioned it, I didn't know that you all were involved in it.
And this year we've been incorporating a lot of bicentennial themes. So the students looked at 200 years of history in Leon County and Tallahassee, and they based their art around that. Winterfest, the same way. And this year, which is going to be in December of 2024, there'll be more of a bicentennial theme to that Winterfest, and that's going to involve over 80 students and 35 teachers and so on and so forth at City Hall. So we also give student tours, both online and in person, of some of the gallery exhibits that we produce ourselves, either at City Hall or at the Artport Gallery. And I could go on and on about it. We've got all these resources online: COCA in the classroom, COCA with kids, and so on. Imagination Station, which is a mailbox that we have at COCA's at the COCA space at Domi Station.
Nice.
So,
nice.
Lots of ways to engage in arts and culture.
Since now you all are at Domi Station, have a space in there, you do workshops there, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. Now, I'm big on mental health. I am a mental health advocate, and art therapy is one of those modalities that helps with coping and, managing our mindset. Do you all get involved with art therapy in any way, or, talk about that, or share any of that in your broadcast, like in your emails that you send out or anything like that?
We have some relationships with art therapists,
Okay.
and that's where our connections really kind of merge together. So we had a board member, April Fitzpatrick, who is a certified arts therapist
Yes.
and artist, and so she was helping us engage more with the community. That was really during COVID. And then there's an art therapy program also at FSU that we've been connecting with. It's not a consistent program like some of the other ones that I've mentioned,
Yeah.
but it is definitely something that I'm hoping will grow and take on legs in the future. In the meantime, arts and culture activities, especially during COVID, really blossomed. I mean, people started taking classes, they picked up instruments, they started drawing, they started singing, jewelry making, I mean, you name it, as ways to help cope. And a lot of those activities have continued on. I know that throughout the community, any of the organizations that we work with that offer classes, they've really seen a bump up in enrollment, and that's, a lot of times we've been able to keep it.
Nice.
Summer camp enrollment's the same way. So it's, I think that continues on. People understand and appreciate and feel like it's necessary, that human right, basic human right, it is, you have a basic human right to have good mental health.
Yes.
And so if arts and culture can continue to be a significant part of that, we want to make sure that people are connected with the resources to make that happen.
Oh, so that brings up two questions for me, and I'll start with the first one, which is that oftentimes in disaster, we see where people's lives are interrupted and maybe they don't have access to power, or certain things that they're used to doing. Now they can, be creative. And so do you find that in the midst of some maybe catastrophic or disastrous situation, people kind of tap more into the art within them?
A lot of times that's a great point. A lot of times that does come up because you're in a space where you're going through trauma. There's a lot of emotions that you're needing to work out, and if you write about it, if you sing about it, if you dance draw exactly, all those are ways to release or to understand what you're feeling or to get connected with yourself.
Yeah.
It's also times when people come together in singing circles, drumming circles, dancing circles, or just to be together and have arms around each other and breathe and meditate and makes music part of that. And all these things are ways that you can connect with yourself during these times of trauma. And what I've been encouraged by is that we've been through a lot of trauma as a community, especially in the past few years. And I'm seeing that folks are getting involved in arts and culture and staying involved and engaged. It might even be attending a show or supporting an arts organization.
Yes.
And that I find has, it's got a stickiness to it now. So it started and is continuing. Because we have busy lives, and sometimes this is the first thing, arts and culture, the best thing for you, sometimes the first thing to go. What I'm seeing is that people understand that they need it in their lives and are willing to create the time and space for it.
So speaking of first thing to go, that brings up the second question, which is around arts oftentimes is on the chopping block. We had a Museum of Arts and Science here that was absolutely phenomenal, but it got chopped. And so, how can we do a better job of advocating for arts and culture in our community?
That's a great question. I think the razor thin margins that a lot of arts organizations function on, and arts businesses are the same way, that attributes to what you're seeing. Also sometimes inconsistency in eligibility for funding, that also contributes to it. So if you want to help out, make sure that you continue your patronage to whatever organization or business it is, or whatever artist it is that you are wanting to support. Make that consistent. Donate, attend their performances, buy their albums, or their artwork and so on. That's one way of doing it. In ways for advocacy, in any kind of funding resource, advocate for eligibility for arts and culture to be part of it. So let's say it's a social services program, but there's an arts and culture program that really helps like youth mental health or something along that line. Those folks should be able to compete for the money.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's you're still that's not going to guarantee that you're going to get it, but to have the door open. It's a lot of door opening, and so I think if you can be in that space where you're constantly door opening for arts and culture to make sure that arts and culture is at the table at any conversation, whether it's about transportation or social services or safety, community safety, or food justice, or whatever you want to talk about. How can arts and culture incorporate into that? And I think that's going to be a big part of making sure that there are resources for arts and culture to continue. And then just with, whether it's city, county, state, federal, there are many ways to advocate through letter writing, talking to your legislators, and just making sure that arts and culture, again, the funding for that is protected.
Now, how can arts and culture share the outcomes? Because I know a lot of times, especially with grant writing, they want to see, well, how many widgets occurred and what was the outcome as a result of this. And sometimes with arts, it's kind of tough to say, unless you get like testimonials or something like that. So talk to me a little bit about the challenges as it relates to that.
That is so interesting because that's a great question about metrics. So what is more impactful? Is storytelling, or are the kind of the box checking metrics?
Yes.
And it depends on who you talk to. So a lot of times in our profession, you need to do them both. And folks are out there doing the programming. They're doing the hands-on work. This can be really challenging to do. So COCA has been slowly but surely putting together more and more metrics to help. They're easy to use that can help you with this. So, for example, recently we did an arts and culture economic impact study. So we measured the amount of arts and culture impact that's going on in this area. So we went out and took these audience intercept surveys at over 70 events around the community, and we that was all given to the Americans for the Arts, which is like the mothership of arts organizations and agencies. And that was then compiled into a study. So, $204 million worth of arts and economic impact in this area in nonprofit. This is just nonprofit. These are not businesses and so on, $85 million worth of impact on arts-related expenditures.
Wow.
$61 per person spending for non-locals, $32 for locals. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Social impact of anywhere from 80 to 86% of arts and culture being important in the community. So we were able to, through our methods, capture all that. So we're taking those methods and we're trying to commodify them into really simple ways that other organizations can use that. So right now on our website, we've got actually a calculator that you can look at your event and go in and just punch in like 3 or 4 numbers, and it will calculate for you the economic impact of your event.
Wow.
And that calculator is free through the COCA website. So
what's the website again?
TallahasseeArts.org.
Okay, look.
TallahasseeArts.org. You can go to the economic development page, or you can go to the grants page, and you'll find that calculator there.
I like that.
So getting the word out is huge, and those, because you can have metrics and you can have stories, but until it kind of rises to the surface in visibility, it's nice to have, but it doesn't really impact people's lives. So that's one of the things we've been doing, is diversifying who we talk to, and making sure we understand what the stories are for the entire community, and then getting that word out to everybody in many ways. So, through the Democrat, through social media, through shows like this, through our engagement with community leaders, through commission meetings. I mean, you have to, as you know, being in this business,
Yes.
have to talk to everybody about this
You do.
so that it finally rises to the surface and people actually believe it.
Absolutely. And across a plethora of platforms as well.
Exactly. So keep your eye on TallahasseeArts.org as we continue to roll out these simple ways to track, check boxes, these calculators, ways that especially mid-sized and small organizations and large organizations too, they can use them, but simple and quick ways that you can say, this is what my impact is, and it's measured in a way that like the business community understands, that chambers understand, and that citizens and residents do too.
Nice. Now, do you consider yourself a lifelong artist?
Yes, I do. I've had a musical career where I played in orchestras and been a singer and did work on stage, and I do writing and photography now, and it trends depending on the work that I'm doing and kind of like what my day job is, right?
Okay.
So my day job right now is a lot of community work and advocacy, and so I have to kind of back off on some things and then can increase in others. But I still write.
Okay.
I still take photos. I still occasionally will play in a gig. Usually, kind of the crisis management I've been doing. I do that in the arts and culture community. Like
Listen, you don't need to call and invite me to one of those.
yeah. If you have a show and your woodwind player drops out because they're sick or something, I get that call. I can come in and read your score for you.
Okay.
Some things like that I still do.
Nice.
Not all the time, but when I can.
Sounds like fun. Now, I'm going to take you way back. What's kind of the first arty type, artsy thing that you did growing up that you can recall?
I did a lot of dancing when I was 3 and 4 years old.
Did you?
Yep.
Okay.
So I had a neighbor that came over, a babysitter, and he absolutely loved to dance. And so we just danced in our living room. That was in a townhouse on the south side of Chicago.
Wow.
So that was where it all started, and then I just continued I was an artsy kid. I costume myself sometimes for school, like do school events. And then I started directing shows when I was in 6th grade.
Really?
Yeah. And writing like radio screenplays and things like that. So, just kind of dabbled in a lot of different art forms when I was a kid, and, was drum major of my marching band. And like, you name it, I kind of did it. Yeah.
Look at you.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine you being the drum major of your marching band.
I was probably the shortest drum major that in existence. So, yeah.
That is funny.
Right.
Wow. So I know we've talked a lot about helping local artists and artists within our community, but there are some artists that you'd like to see come and share their talents with us?
Well, as you pointed out before, there's a huge, rich tapestry of arts and culture in the community already, and people that have connections. And so, bringing in artists from the outside, I mean, there are definitely many artists that I think already have either connection to Tallahassee or folks that we would, love to bring in. There's folks that I have presented before, like Rhiannon Giddens, who have just been knocking it out of the park in both opera and folk music, and really like telling history through the history of the banjo, and the whole diaspora that goes along with it. Like someone like she, who's an amazing musician, plays with the Silk Road Ensemble and is a scholar. Those are the types of artists I would love to see. The Astor Gates, who does a ton of work in the Chicago area in an intersecting creative placemaking and arts and culture, started a whole, on the south side of Chicago, started a whole community where independent artists are embedded into neighborhoods. So think of like, could Frenchtown or Bond have like an artist in residence there? I mean, those are the types of things that I would love to do. I think there's presenting and producing going on here, artists coming in and so on for touch points. But what I would love to see is having artists really engage in the community development that's going on here, the economic development, and especially in where neighborhoods want to go. And I think there's a lot of ideas already, coming in. The fact that there's in the Midwest, I worked a lot with with Melvin Carter, who's a graduate of FAMU, is now the mayor of St. Paul. And I had spoken, this was probably 3 years ago or so, but at FAMU, I spoke with him about all the mayors that are, FAMU graduates. And there was like
quite a few.
Yeah, exactly. And like Melvin is great about arts and culture. He actually started a program, a livable wage program for artists in St. Paul.
Nice.
Like one of the first in the nation. So things like that, those kinds of innovations, that's what I would want to bring in.
Okay.
And I would then want to work with the community and like, who else do you want to bring in as an artist? All right, do you want me to bring, call Lizzo? What do you want me to do?
Yes.
I'm happy to do that, but I think our role at COCA is to really deepen the role of a visiting artist within the community itself, embedding them into especially like policy and community engagement, community development.
Nice.
That's what I'd love to see.
Okay, cool. Now, if you weren't the executive director of COCA, what would you be?
Oh, that's a good question. I have a lot of ambitions.
Okay.
So I think that, I love this policy work. I'd love to do it more on a national or international level. There's these Music City initiatives that are occurring. Huntsville is one. St. Augustine is another, where they've really embedded music, especially music and music education in with public policy. I'd love to do some of that work.
Nice.
If I wasn't doing this, I'd also love to probably be in an ensemble again, do some more writing, maybe do some exhibiting and things like that, travel.
Okay.
So kind of like how I've done with my arts career, this, that, the other thing.
Yes.
I'd want to do all of that.
Okay, sounds like fun. And then any kind of bucket list places you might want to go?
Just in general? That's a great question. I've been to South Africa before,
Really?
and which is an incredible experience. If you ever have a chance to go to, I went to
on my
Johannesburg.
list. It's on my list.
Yeah, I'd love to go to Cape Town. And they have some very innovative ways that they're engaging with arts and culture. I'm a culture vulture, and so I would love
culture vulture.
A culture vulture.
Okay.
I would love to go to every continent and take a look at some of their what they're doing in arts and culture in not only small towns but in larger cities. So like when Cape Town was having a lot of issues with water, they just had water shortages. They commissioned composers to write these 30-second clips of music. And so they would play them on local radio, and that's how you knew how long you could take your shower. So when a song started, you started your shower, and when the song ended, you ended it. And it was a very successful campaign, and they were able to conserve enough water across the entire community in order to, through these like 30-second music clips.
Nice.
So things like that. I would love to be in communities with really innovative thinkers that are doing that. That's so the places that are doing this kind of work are South Africa, in the UK, in South America. I mean, there's places around. Antarctica. They have a ship. Yep, there's an actual artist residency that you can take on a ship that goes to Antarctica, and you can do an artist residency up in Antarctica. Yeah, wow. Those are the kinds of things I would love to do and I'd love to adventure. And I always welcome friends along with me.
I would love to go.
That's very good.
All right, final question. Yeah. What is your greater work, which would be like the equivalent of your superpower?
I think my greatest work is commitment to collaboration.
Okay, yeah, cool. And I definitely agree. Thank you for spending time with me today.
Oh, this was delightful.
Good.
Thank you for the invitation.
My pleasure. And thank you all for tuning in to Conversations with Nicole, where we are connecting the community through conversation.
Manly Manor, an executive suite nestled in Tallahassee's J. Gaither Park, offers a 4-bedroom house with a chef's kitchen and luxurious amenities. It's close to FAMU, FSU, the airport, and the historic J. Gaither Golf Course. Your home, away from home. Book today at manlymanor.com.